In our online poll last night, we asked, do you believe the fate of the nation depends on how quickly President Trump can start moving conservative judges into the left-wing judicial system? 91% of you say yes. Well, joining me now, attorney Barbara Smith. She served as law clerk to Justice Samuel Alito. Barbara, good to have you with us. And
hi, thanks for having me on.
I know that you follow the judicial system closely in all respects, and the appellate, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, they've lived up to their reputation here tonight, don't you think?
Indeed, they have. And I think that there's a lot that's troubling about the merits of the court's opinion, and I'm happy to dive into one issue that I found particularly troubling, and that is the court's evaluation of the government's likelihood of succeeding on the merits of their case. The thing that I find troubling about that particular part of the analysis is that the court said, well, we have due process concerns as this executive order applies to lawful permanent residents. But the administration has made very clear in a policy memorandum issued by the White House counsel to the relevant agency heads that says this executive order doesn't apply to lawful permanent residents. And the court basically just disregarded that, what I think to be crucial fact in its analysis.
That's an interesting point, because the ruling itself, on its face, I mean, these folks, along with the district court judge in the Western District of the state of Washington, are making judgments about national security as if they had both the standing, the expertise, and available knowledge of the available evidence about the intent of those who are terrorists. I mean, it's really a striking and peculiar order in that respect as well, don't you think?
Well, you hit on an important point, which is that this is a case that involves both issues of national security and also issues, obviously, of immigration. And when it comes to national security and immigration, the Constitution is actually pretty clear that those are the provinces of the political branches of Congress and the president. And in this case, we have an example of Congress and the president agreeing on what the policy of the nation should be when it comes to the ability to suspend immigration for certain classes of aliens. And the court has stepped in and disagreed with that policy judgment, which, in my view, is probably not the proper role of the court.
And the likelihood of success in a court, a Supreme Court, that is evenly split ideologically, politically, and what should the president do?
Well, so I think he has a couple of options. He could obviously seek an emergency appeal of the decision to the Supreme Court, which, as you mentioned, currently has 8 members, so that might be a tough option for him. He could also seek en banc review before a larger panel of 11 judges on the Ninth Circuit and hope that he gets judges that maybe have a different view of the law. Or he could say, all right, I'm going to sort of abandon the TRO posture of this case, go back to the trial judge and pursue the merits of the claim and see how the rest of the case unfolds.
Do you know, President Trump looks all the more sagacious and courageous in running as a populist and anti-establishment candidate. When we look at the court system and what he is up against in corporate America and academia, the left in this country, and now confronting the court system, which is so just rife with bias and ideological preference that frankly, I don't know how you could convince any American that they could get a fair trial and be treated equally under the law anywhere in this country.
Well, I'm certainly not going to impute the motives of federal court judges. I think they're probably following their own conscience.
You have to practice before them.
Well, and I think reasonable people can disagree on what the law says. I happen to think it's pretty clear in this area and that the Ninth Circuit got it wrong. But I certainly don't think that they were motivated by political concerns. They just have a different view of what the law is. The wrong view, in my opinion, but a different view.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that these wrong views, at least in your opinion and mine, all seem to originate in courts dominated by liberals and democratically appointed justices and judges? I mean, at some point you have to defer, it seems to me, reasonably to the evidence and the causal relationship between the two. And that's what I was referring to, Barbara, when I said partisanship is rife in our court system, politicization.
Well, I certainly think you're right to highlight that the nomination of strict constructionists and constitutionalists to the Federal Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court is extremely important.
Barbara, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank
Barbara
you.
Smith. And that's it for us tonight. We thank you for being with us in our special coverage